Hey there, history buffs. You know what they say, Rome wasn't built in a day, but it sure did fall apart pretty quickly. Just kidding, lads. The fall of the Roman Empire was a slow burn, a real tragedy in slow motion. Imagine a once mighty empire, ruling the world, and then, poof, gone. Well, not exactly poof. More like a long, drawn-out sigh, but we'll get to that. First, let's set the scene. Picture this. Gladiators, chariots, the roar of the crowd. We're talking about ancient Rome, baby. The heart of an empire, a melting pot of culture, and home to some seriously impressive architecture. Speaking of architecture, let's talk about the Colosseum. This wasn't just any old building, folks. This was the big leagues, the Super Bowl of its time. But even the mightiest structures crumble eventually. And believe me, the story of Rome's fall is way more dramatic than any gladiator fight. Buckle up, because we're about to dive headfirst into history. Now picture yourself standing in the heart of ancient Rome. The sun is blazing, the crowds are buzzing, and there, right before your very eyes, stands the Colosseum. This wasn't just a building, it was a statement. A symbol of Rome's power, its innovation, and let's be honest, its love for a good spectacle. Imagine the roar of the crowd as gladiators clashed in the arena. Picture the chariots racing around the track, kicking up dust and glory. This was entertainment on an epic scale, a testament to Rome's grandeur. The Colosseum could hold up to 80,000 screaming fans, which is more than most modern sports stadiums. It was a feat of engineering, built with concrete and stone, with arches and columns that seemed to touch the sky. But here's the thing about symbols. They can be deceiving. The Colosseum, for all its might, couldn't hold back the tide of history. It stood as a silent witness to the empire's slow decline, a reminder that even the greatest civilizations can fall. Okay, so we've had our fun with gladiators and architecture. Now it's time to get serious. Because behind the dazzling facade of the Roman Empire, trouble was brewing. Like a forgotten pot on the stove, things were starting to overheat. Rome's problems didn't appear overnight. They crept in slowly, like a slow leak in a ship. The empire had become vast, stretching from the British Isles all the way to the Middle East. That's a lot of land to govern, even for the mighty Romans. Communication lines were stretched thin, and it became difficult to maintain control over such a sprawling territory. Rebellions sparked up in distant provinces, and it took ages for Roman legions to march to the rescue. Meanwhile, back in Rome, the emperors were having a bit of a leadership crisis. Some were wise and just, but others were, well, let's just say they enjoyed the finer things in life a bit too much. Corruption, greed, and power struggles became the norm. The very foundations of the empire were starting to crack. Now, let's talk about money. 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 Because even in ancient Rome, money made the world go round. And guess what? The Roman economy was in a bit of a pickle. Rome's once mighty legions, the backbone of the empire, were costing a fortune to maintain. And those lavish public spectacles. Yeah, those weren't free either. To fund their extravagant lifestyle, the emperors started to debase the currency. That's a fancy way of saying they put less gold and silver in their coins. Imagine your paycheck suddenly being worth half as much. Not cool, right? This led to inflation, and prices for everyday goods skyrocketed. People started hoarding goods, and the economy went into a tailspin. It's like that old saying, you can't squeeze blood from a stone or gold from an empty treasury. Section 5. From within and without. Military and political instability. Remember those impressive Roman legions we talked about? Well, even they weren't immune to the empire's woes. As Rome's economy faltered, so did its military might. The legions, once made up of proud Roman citizens, were increasingly filled with foreign mercenaries. These soldiers, loyal only to their paychecks, lacked the discipline and dedication of their predecessors. Meanwhile, back in the political arena, things were just as chaotic. Emperors were assassinated left and right. It was like a real-life Game of Thrones, but with togas and sandals. Political instability became the norm, and the empire was paralyzed by infighting and power struggles. It was like watching a slow-motion train wreck. You knew it was going to be bad, but you couldn't look away. Section 6. The barbarian tide external pressures. So far, we've been focusing on Rome's internal problems, but from outside the empire's borders, a new threat was emerging: the barbarians. Now, before you picture a bunch of unkempt dudes with bad haircuts, Let's be clear. Barbarian was just a term the Romans used for anyone who wasn't Roman. It didn't necessarily mean they were uncivilized, just different. These barbarians, including groups like the Goths and the Vandals, were fleeing their own problems: climate change, overpopulation, and pressure from other tribes. They saw the weakening Roman Empire as a land of opportunity. And who could blame them? Rome, with its wealth and fertile lands, was a tempting prize. Like a pack of wolves circling a wounded animal, the barbarians began to test the empire's defenses. At first, these were just raids, hit-and-run attacks that tested Rome's resolve. But as time went on, the raids became bolder, the attacks more frequent. Section 7. The Fall of Giants. Key events and figures. Alright folks, it's time to talk about the main event, the fall of Rome. It was a series of events, a gradual decline that culminated in the Western Roman Empire's final gasp in 476 AD. Constantine the Great converted to Christianity, making it the official religion. Attila the Hun terrorized both halves of the Roman Empire. Alaric sacked Rome in 410 AD, a symbolic blow to the empire. In 476 AD, Odoacer deposed the last Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus. Section 8. Echoes of the Past. Lessons from Rome's fall. So there you have it, the rise and fall of the Roman Empire in a nutshell. But why should we care about a bunch of togas and sandals from centuries ago? What relevance does this ancient tale have for us today? Well, as it turns out, quite a lot. You see, history has a funny way of repeating itself, and the lessons we can learn from Rome's demise are as relevant now as they were 1500 years ago. Rome's fall teaches us that even the mightiest empires can crumble. It reminds us that power corrupts, that unchecked ambition can lead to downfall. It highlights the importance of strong leadership, economic stability, and social cohesion. And it warns us of the dangers of complacency, of taking our freedoms and prosperity for granted. Section 9. Rome's legacy, a lasting impact. Sure, the Roman Empire might be long gone, but its legacy lives on. We see it in our laws, our language, our architecture, and even in our love for a good pizza. Okay, maybe the Romans didn't invent pizza, but they definitely knew a thing or two about good food. Rome's influence can be felt across the globe, a testament to the enduring power of ideas and culture. Their roads, aqueducts, and buildings still stand today, a reminder of their ingenuity and skill. So the next time you're enjoying a slice of pizza or marveling at a Roman ruin, take a moment to reflect on the rise and fall of this once mighty empire. Because in the words of the great Roman philosopher Cicero, to be ignorant of what occurred before you were born is to remain always a child. And trust me, nobody wants to be a child when it comes to understanding history. That's it from me, folks.